Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. It's been another beautiful week here in Eastern Oregon, and we're expecting the 10-day looks awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great for playing on the playset.
Which is almost done. I think they might finish up today, and Pedro is set to come tomorrow to start the brick border around it, which will kind of tighten it up, and then we can put the mulch down. And the kids have already been playing on it though. I mean, because they get certain steps done every night. Like one night the climbing wall will be done. The next night the swings are up, and the kids have just been loving it so far, and that's super fun to watch. But anything we need to talk? Oh yeah. Greenstock Vertical Gardens. It came out with a new color called Cherry Blossom. It's a very light pink. It's very sweet. We set one up for a friend of ours who pink is, when I think of pink, I think of Pam.
Yeah.
That is, she embodies pink. And so we just thought it would be so fun to take one out to her and set it up. So she's got that going, but we're just running a short sale today, Sunday through Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And it is, you know the details.
$40 off the pink, the Cherry Blossom pink, and then $20 off any of the other colors.
Almost Mother's Day. If your mom likes pink, that might be a really fun...
Oh, no codes necessary on this one. How about that?
Oh, yay. That is nice. Very nice. Anyway, I think that was it, right? We can just jump in?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The first video was algae took over our pond and see what it looks like now. That was a really fun day. I didn't really know what it was going to be like. We had Chris from Green Source Landscaping and his crew come out to do the project. And he had asked me, because we saw him the week before, he's like, you ready to get in there and get dirty? I was like, yes. What does that mean? But I was excited to just learn more about it. So we, drained the whole pond. We showed you the whole thing. Took the fish out, power washed the stones, got it filled back up. It's looking so good. And it was a very satisfying project. And I learned a lot about, we had some things added in that day, like an auto doser that's pushing in a certain kind of, there's different products. One's called Clean and one's called Maintain. And they're all natural ingredients, and I'm still learning about it, but you can set your auto doser based on the amount of gallons of water you have in your pond, and it will meter it out over time. And then we also had a skimmer box put in, which, the water flows a specific way in that pond, and so it naturally pushes leaves and debris to one side of the pond, and now they can go into that skimmer basket instead of us having to net it out, although it hasn't been a huge chore.
Well, we have so many evergreen things over there.
Yeah, right.
And there's not a whole lot of leaves, now, so we don't have a lot of debris.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah, but eventually we will.
Yeah.
When those oak trees get really big.
Well, once the oak trees get big, we might have to net it.
Put a net over the whole thing.
Spring?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm looking at those oak trees thinking we could still move them.
No, it'll be good. They'll be good.
Gah.
We can leave them.
With the brown leaves all winter long.
That'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so Jelly said, Laura, the pond looks beautiful. Is the pond cleaning an annual chore? I think it can be. I think that as your pond matures and your ecosystem, it's called an aquascape ecosystem pond. Once that ecosystem balances, you have far less of a problem with string algae than we did. I mean, even Chris was like, dang, it's a lot of algae. But then we did learn things like our IonGen, which is something that emits copper and zinc into the water, and it kills the string algae. The probes weren't even down in the water. Somehow they had been... Anyway, so it was not doing what we thought it was supposed to be doing, so we were like, oh, geez.
Right.
Is this what's going to be like? But now that we have all the other systems in place, we should do a lot better. And once the ecosystem balances, you don't have the same problem. So it's possible there might be, a couple of years that we have it be an annual chore. But then going forward, it might be more sporadic or, just depending on what it looks like.
It sounded like you can also, if your algae isn't as bad as what it was for us, you can pump out a little bit of the water, scrub some of the rocks and then fill it up the rest of the way if it's not really bad. So it's like a couple hour chore. Maybe.
Instead of draining the entire thing.
Yeah, instead of draining the whole thing and cleaning the whole thing. I don't think that's maybe necessary every year.
Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of hear different opinions from different pond people.
And I think, too, it just depends on we have no shade to our pond yet. So I think it's naturally going to grow more algae than one that's in the shade until we have some size on our trees over there. Depends on, how warm the water is staying. All of those things play into it.
Yeah.
How the fish are doing. All of our fish are doing great. And they were all in there, and they've all grown. And one of them, Brian from Aquascape, was here just a day before yesterday, and he said, that one's pregnant. You're going to have babies here in May. Oh, it's so exciting. I don't even know what to look for, but now that I look at her, I'm like, yeah.
I guess they lay 10,000 eggs or
Oh my
something
goodness.
like that.
That should be interesting. They say that like there's a week time in about May where you'll get like a foam on top of the water, and that means that it's happened.
Ah,
Yeah. Janet said the pond looks great. Do you ever have great blue herons? No, not yet. Egrets? No. Ducks? Yes. A pair of ducks came and we took a little, I think I put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Facebook, made a little reel of
we
that.
saw them yesterday.
Yeah, they were out sitting in the dirtlands in
Yeah.
the grass yesterday. No geese. Other water birds. Haven't seen any other water birds. So it's just the ducks so far. Natasha said, question, if the pond has to be emptied out, aren't you going to have to start from scratch from your ecosystem? So I had that same question, but the wetland filters, they go deep. Like I want to say that section's like what, between 5 and 6 feet deep.
I'm not sure.
And it has like all those filter crate things.
Right.
The water's still in there. And then a lot of it, like we don't clean 100% of the stones off. So like you still have quite a lot of that bacteria in there. So you're not wiping out the ecosystem completely when you're doing a clean like that.
They made it sound like that's where almost all the bacteria
Is in the
like all the
wetlands.
beneficial stuff that you want stays in there.
Yeah. So the way it is, and I don't know if we have any, I think you looked for B-roll, but maybe I didn't capture it, but the wetlands kind of is its own compartment, and then the soil comes up. And there's rocks that kind of go, like the water from here comes up and then goes over into another basin. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So there's like a divider right there so that all that water's not flowing
Sure.
with each other. Mob in a that must have felt so satisfying. It did. It certainly was to watch. Question, do you ever figure out where the 11th koi came from? No. I remember originally there were only 10 and one day you were surprised to count one extra. Yeah. Which we've watched the videos back when we put fish in both times. First time there were 6 fish. Second time there was 4 fish. Like I was present in there with a camera.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense where that 11th one came from. But we have 11 koi there, and the high-fin banded shark made an appearance, which was nice. And it's gotten bigger.
It's kind of a bizarre thing.
I know. It's very weird. And there are some of you who think you have it figured out. You're like, no, look in that bag. There's,
Yeah.
no, there was only 10. I was here. Somebody's been sneaking in some koi.
Yeah, probably Greg.
Yeah, maybe. Trying to throw a little kink in it.
Yeah.
Gemma said, I just love your garden watching from Cheshire in UK. The joy you find in the smallest things. Thank you for all the information you share. Well, right about 9:46, was that a turtle just basking in the sunshine? It was. It is a fake turtle. It feels weird, though. Have you felt that turtle?
No.
Like the head and the arms are kind of like this rubber
Oh,
that
yeah?
feel like kind of wet. Like it's the weirdest. It's sitting on our kitchen island right now. The kids brought it in, I think, last night. And yeah, it feels like it could pass for one.
Wow.
Yeah, Greg brought that. Chrissy said, what a transformation, but why did they not install these things like the skimmer box and jets when they built the pond? The jets were there. The jets had been going the whole time. The skimmer box was meant to be installed last fall, and I don't know what happened.
It was just logistics. Like
Yeah,
things
not
don't,
having the right stuff at the time of the install.
Yeah, things don't show up
Right.
at the right time and all that.
Yeah. And then
Which
winter
is not
happened.
really that big of a deal. We didn't have a lot to skim anyway.
No, we didn't.
I think that's why weren't. It wasn't like a high priority because for
Yeah.
them putting in a skimmer box later is like,
Nothing.
it'll take me like 30 minutes to do it.
Well, they knew they were going to be coming back this spring too, and it's like, well, we'll just do it all in one fell swoop. I'll have all the stuff we need, and they
Yeah.
did, and they got it done.
The auto dosing thing, that maybe would have been nice to have that installed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been nice.
Yeah, but it is now. So, and
Yeah.
we learn through the process, and it's fun to be able to include you guys on that too, so you can see what it's like for us. I mean, being complete pond newbies, knowing nothing about ponds. And I mean, it's an education for us, and then you get to see it too. Like if you're considering getting a pond, it might eliminate some questions or fears, I guess, And,
Sure.
yeah. And I feel like they set us up with good information going forward. Like you will have algae. It will be something you deal with for a little while. So expect that. And so knowing that,
I think if you're going to put in a pond, one, you either need to love the DIY process of just learning about it and getting in there and doing it. And if you consider it a hobby of yours to play with ponds, that's great. Or you need to just really like your guy, or lady, but whoever's putting in your pond, you just need to have a good relationship with them, be able to text them when something goes awry. And as long as you have a good relationship with your pond person, then you'll have a good experience.
and if you're local, Chris is such an awesome guy.
Yeah, he is.
Like, we really enjoy working with him and his whole crew. His whole crew's family.
Yeah.
So I get that. Like, coming from a family-run and business where everybody has been down there at one point or another, sometimes all at the same time. It's really fun to kind of be brought in on that dynamic, and they're also like, yeah, you want to get in here and and be involved in their project, and just really fun to be around. So anyway, Green Source Landscaping, if you're local, is his company out of Caldwell. Randy said, what did you do with all the algae? Would it make a good fertilizer? I was asking that. And I think it's in our pile.
Yeah.
I actually went out the evening before we were going to post this video because I thought, I want to show you guys how much algae came out of the pond. So I was going to take a little video of the pile. And Paul and Bethany are always so on it, like the pile's gone.
Yeah.
It's already taken care of and cleaned up. And I texted Paul, I'm like, did you happen to take a picture? Like, that'd be such a random thing to take a picture of, but you never know.
Right.
And neither of them had taken a picture.
It was a big pile of algae.
It was. It was a big pile. But I had such a good day. I loved it. I love working in the water. I love putting on those hip waders. I need to fashion something different, though, because the straps, they're awkward anyway because they're way too big for me, and the boots are way too big for me. But it was the only size other than youth sizes that our outdoorsman store had. So I just got them. But they have built-in knee pads so you can crawl around on the rocks. But the straps come, and they're supposed to go inside, and there's like a piece of Velcro here. So when you're standing, you do it to where they're holding everything up, and you feel like secure. But then when you bend over, it's like everything needs to stretch a little bit, and they always pop off and end up in the water.
Oh, sure.
So I need to use safety pins or something and safety pin them on before I get in there, because then I end up tying them around, and it's always a little awkward. But the buoyancy you feel in the water, it's like such a comfortable, fun job to do. I don't know. I'd love it if it was like a bad day. Like if it was my business and it was a bad weather day, probably wouldn't love it.
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay, next video was a big perennial plant delivery. So we got our perennials in from Walters Gardens, who's the home of Proven Winners perennials. And you guys, their stuff, when they send us their loads, it's the most fun one to unpack. Because I think we get a lot of their sample plants they use for shows that have been grown onto this massive proportions. So they're impressive right from the gate. I remember asking them at one point, okay, so I want to put in a hedge lavender, but can you not send me 3-gallon cans? For every lavender plant, we get this massive, but they just want to send us the big, beautiful plants, which is so fun.
They don't sell, you can't buy finished plants from Walters, right?
No, I don't think so. I think they ship out a lot of roots and stuff like
bare
that.
root stuff.
Yeah, I don't know though. They've got greenhouses full of stuff. It's a wholesale thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where you order all Proven Winners perennials. If you're a grower, so what you would do is you would order bare root or
daylily roots, or whatever, and they pot them up.
Yeah, because I've seen those be shipped in boxes where it's literally just looks like dead roots.
Yeah.
And then growers pot them, grow them on, and then sell them when they look nice.
Right. It's an impressive operation. We haven't been there for a number of years, but we did do a tour through there at one point.
Was it 2017, I think?
It might have been. Right when we were start working with, when we had very first started working with Proven Winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Anyway, it was a fun day because it rained. It poured for a lot of the time that I was doing that, but we were under protection in the high tunnel. I had my coffee. I just took my time. It was wonderful. So Up North 21 said, just like Christmas morning, it really was so much fun to get new plants. Did you pre-order all of these, or did they send you some to try out with your order? I want to say initially.
Kind of both.
Yeah, except for now, I think that they send me a list. And one, they'll ask me, are there any plants that you need for projects? Like the Sweet Romance Lavender. It's not a new plant, but it's something that they produce, and I needed to have more for replacements. And so I'll give them a list like that. I would love some more penstemon. I would love some more grasses. And so I give them that. And then they send me the list of 2025 plants. Here are some new ones that are coming out that we'd love for you to try. Which ones do you want to try? Because they know that I don't love all red blooming things, and they don't want to send things to me that I don't really want to plant in my garden. So I'll go through and make a list of the things that I like. And then sometimes I get all of them, and sometimes I'll get, a good portion of them. So this load was a mix of older perennials that are coming out this year that a lot of them we've already tried. I just want to add to, and then some of them are new for next year.
Sometimes you'll plant things, I hear this a lot from you, where you'll plant something that is new for the next year, but they only can spare sending you 1 to 3.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, I need 5 more of that.
Yeah.
And then that's when I send the emails to different people like, where can I get a few more of these?
Well, it's like the pink and blue lungwort. I want to expand that section. I need like 5 more to make that drift like really impressive. It's already impressive by itself. I think I've got 5 in there currently. But those were new for this year, I think.
That plant is so much better than any of the other lungworts that I've seen.
I think they all offer something a little bit differently, and that's different.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to have them, especially even close by. Like I've got the pink-a-blue and the spot on. You can kind of compare the different growth habits and different colors and things. I think there's a spot for each of them, but pink blue is impressive. Foxflower 9560 said, does Monarda spread like mint? It's in the same family, but obviously different plant, so I wasn't sure. I've never had it spread like mint. I mean, it will clump out, and it's maybe a little faster at clumping than some other perennials, but I've never had it be a problem, and mint here is invasive. I mean, I think it probably is everywhere, but even here in our dry climate, where it's, not getting ample moisture because we are very targeted in our watering. We don't water areas that we don't have anything, or even between plants. It's very targeted, but the mint still will spread itself around, and Monarda doesn't. Stacy said, okay, 7 pallets. Can you share what that might cost? I do not know.
Finished plants. I mean, it was kind of like 7 pallets because
they're
stacked.
They were 7 full pallets.
Yeah.
3 per the 2 stack, and
maybe a couple thousand.
Possibly.
A couple $1,000s.
Had those mangaves in though. I want to say that those are going to be more. They're slower growing.
Sure.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I could figure it out based on like order sheets and stuff down at the garden center possibly. But there's a lot of those perennials you can't order in that big of a size.
Right.
Like I don't even know that my mom could get them.
Yeah.
In those great big 3-gallon cans. User said, wow, every plant you showed us I need. I feel that. Will you plant the mangave in the ground and then dig them up in the fall? No. That is one that needs to go in a pot so I can easily move it to and from. I don't want to handle those more than I have to, especially the ones with the pokey needles on them. I remember I had those, they were agaves, so they were like the Americana agaves, huge. Do you remember how big those got?
Yeah. Oh. And you asked me to move those all the time?
All the time, twice a year.
That's a lot when you're dealing with like a plant that can kill you. Like one wrong move and you're dead. That's a lot. Twice a year is a lot.
That's a little much, Aaron.
Well, it could. Things.
It might poke an eye out.
It's basically a plant that just has like knives or spears.
That one did. And I had them in iron urns. Like they're iron urns I've got out there with sedum in them now.
Yeah.
But they're in these iron urns that are about this big, and the agave's got like this big and super tall. And you could hardly get to the pot underneath the canopy of the...
Correct me if I'm wrong. If one were to fall into that plant, you'd probably die.
No, you wouldn't die.
You would.
Draw blood.
It would do more than draw blood. It would be like, we've got a man that's been stabbed 17 times. He's losing blood.
His name is Aaron.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think that it would hurt pretty bad, but I don't think you'd lose your life, Aaron. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't have those plants
if no
anymore.
one was around to help, you'd be dead.
No.
It's a death plant.
It is not. And all of these that we got in, all the mangaves, they're a mix between an agave and a manfreda.
Yeah.
And so supposedly they are a little bit faster growing than some of the other agaves, some varieties of agave, and you're able to get a lot more different structures and colors. And a lot of them that I got are full size. Like they're not going to get bigger than what we see right there. So that'll be very easy to pair it to the right pot, so they're easy to move around. Some of those aren't pokey. Like if you feel them, they're just nice and smooth.
Yeah.
There's 2 varieties that are. Christine said, what a beautiful variety of plants. Question about bee balm / Monarda. Mine seem to flower beautifully for a couple of years and then seem to disappear. Do they have a lifespan? That's kind of weird. I wonder if did the area get shadier, or you might need to divide them or fertilize them. Those are the 3 things I would check first. Annie said, I hear yarrow and cringe. This spring, our yard and grass is being overtaken by yarrow. We don't know where it came from. Any idea on how to get rid of it? In a lawn, I would probably use lawn weed brew, get it as a concentrate, and mix it at the highest mix ratio for a weed like that. And that'll get rid of it out of your lawn. I know yarrow is one of those things that we deal with here too. Not the hybridized yarrows that I showed in this video. And we've got a lot of Firefly Peach Sky. I love that yarrow. The There's one amethyst, something that's pink, it's beautiful. I grew summer pastels from seed last year, and those were great. And the ones that came in are destined for our cut flower garden because I love using yarrow in cut arrangements. But we do have a native yarrow that's been in our area for, I don't know, somebody might get after me for saying it's a native. It might have been introduced from somewhere, I don't know. It just comes up on its own in pastures and things around here. I remember it in my parents' pasture. We would go out with shovels and thistles and yarrow, dig those things out.
Sure.
Or just chop them off. You continue to chop them off. You eventually weaken the root system, and then they don't come back. Tyrina said, you had a good day. I did have a good day. How closely should someone follow the zone a plant is signed for? Fairly close, I would say. I think our zone map is all off. But I think follow what the plant tag says because they do test them in different areas, and I think that that's a good gauge.
Sometimes we've found that some things are labeled as an annual when actually it's a perennial.
Yeah.
So in that case, it may come back for you, but otherwise, ask people in your area too what zone they think that they're in, like seasoned gardeners, because the USDA zone map may not be like really accurate.
Well, like for example, we live on kind of the top of a hill-ish, if you look at the topography of our area. And I know a seasoned gardener, really good customer down at the garden center, who lives just below us, like right at the base of the hill and in a neighborhood. And he's got like a half lot that he was able to, I don't know if it came with his house or whatever, but anyway, he grows a huge garden and he can plant out tomatoes uncovered beginning of April every year. That's a month before I can put him out. But he said he lives in like a little banana belt down there. It's warm, it's protected, it's more like a 7, possibly an 8 where he's at. And it's like a block down our road. Yeah. Maybe 2 blocks. I don't know. It's very close.
It's true, though, because I've noticed that snow will stay here, and you literally drive down the hill, and it's melted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Like, why do we have snow?
Yeah.
Like, why is it not melting here, too? So it's true.
But I think following the zones that are listed on a tag is probably a good place to start, especially if you're kind of unfamiliar. Okay, next video was spring blooms in the cut flower garden and a free flower bouquet delivery. That was such a fun afternoon. It was kind of lightly sprinkling, and I went through and picked every single one of the daffodils that were ready to pick, and there's a whole crop of new ones out there right now, and the tulips are looking really good too. But we picked those, took them into the flower shed and made 26 bouquets, I think, and then the kids and I took a couple of them to Andrew's. We gave some to my brother, sister, my mom, and a customer that happened to be there at the moment. And then we took the rest up to an assisted living facility, the one where we planted up the planter last year. And we may do that. Hopefully we'll have a chance to do that again this year. They took such great care of it. It looks so good. Sheila said the flowers are really beautiful. I planted about 40 to 50 daffodils last fall and got no flowers at all. I did get leaves, but no flowers. I don't know what may have caused that. Any ideas? That's really weird. Because usually when you're planting fresh bulbs in the fall, they're charged up and they're ready to go for the bloom for the next season. Even if you're planting them in deep shade, that first year you should still get blooms. It's usually only after years and years of being in the same location where they're not getting enough sunshine to recharge their bulb, then you'll start having dwindling flower counts. So I'm not sure. I mean, it kind of depends on where you got your bulbs. Like in my case, if I were to dig up some of those daffs, like right now that are not blooming and I just got leaves because they're in too much shade for a number of years, and then gave them to a friend later this season to plant, they probably wouldn't get blooms next year.
No.
They need to put them in a sunny spot, let them leaf out, recharge, and then they'd bloom the next year, if that makes any sense. User said, can't help but wonder, since this bed will change as the seasons progress, will you dig the bulbs and save them to replant? I will probably give them to somebody who would like to plant them, unless we find ourselves with a pocket of time to get them in the ground. But I love to just spread. If I can spread it to somebody who can enjoy it and save myself some time in the process, that gives me just as much joy as planting them and having them come back up the next year. Becky said, do any of those daffs have a fragrance? Yes. How long will those bouquets last? So the bouquets, I think they're still up. We drove by on just a random drive the other night, and I could see them all. They were all in the dining room. Well, not all of them probably, but several of them were in the dining room in the center of tables. And we actually got a message from somebody whose mom is in there and said, I found out that you guys did that, and it just really blessed everybody. It was just so sweet. Anyway, they'll last quite a long time. The bouquets that my mom and sister took, those are still going for it. So I think I got them right at the right stage. And there were a few that I pitched that I did cut that day. that I thought, no, I think we'd only get like a day, maybe 2, and I want everything in these bouquets to kind of last about the same amount of time. Topsy Turvy is the most, and Casada probably are the 2 most fragrant ones I cut that day.
I saw someone left a really good piece of advice that if you don't cut them, the blooms will last longer. So put that away.
Noted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amber said, my daffs don't last longer than 3 days in a vase. Do yours? Yes, like a week. Do you do anything to make them last longer? Nope. It's probably just in the stage you're cutting them in. What? Why are you smiling?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
You were like,
Was I smiling?
To yourself, kind of.
I cracked myself up with my own sarcasm.
I guess. Miss J.L. Smith said that thumbnail is so clear, not that the others aren't. It's because I asked Aaron to come out with a nice camera. I told him I'm not going to be moving very much or very fast, so this is the perfect opportunity to use the long lens and get some really nice looking footage, and I think that's where you picked the thumbnail from.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a richer look. Most of the time when I'm out filming, because I'm by myself, I use GoPros because they can handle a lot of abuse, and they handle light and dark, like shade, clouds, and blue sky, and that's a lot of what we have. Like today it looks like clear blue sky, no clouds. So that's an easy day because you don't have to adjust light exposure on your camera. But when you have clouds, GoPros kind of handle that a little bit better, but they're not quite as crisp or as rich looking.
Yeah.
But they get the job done. Sandra said, do they get thrips? I was worried about them. I wondered that too, and I'm not seeing a single thrip yet. It might be too cool still, but I checked those things over, and
You're good.
yeah, so far so good. But I do have, we're going to do the biological release again, and then there's some slow release biological packets we're going to put out as well. So we're going to do what we can to try to keep the thrips at bay. Brian and Tammy Olson said, can I ask a dumb question? No such thing as a dumb question.
There are some dumb questions.
But not this one.
Not this one.
When you cut a daffodil or tulip, does it bloom again in its season, or is that it? It depends. So some bulbs you plant, it depends on kind of like the grade of bulb, I think, and the type of bulb. We get all of ours, or most of ours, from Color Blends, and I get a few from my parents' garden center as well. But they're just good size, nice bulbs, and they usually produce more than one bloom stalk. So like all the flowers that I picked the other day, it already looks like a solid row, another crop in the same spot. And I noticed that as I was cutting that there was 1 or 2 more bloom stalks that had already started to form. They just weren't ready to cut yet. And Katie said, what a sweet gift. Did you hear how the nursing home residents responded to your bouquets? We heard from the one. In fact, when we went down to Andrews, the kids were going to come and deliver with me. And Benjamin ended up wanting to stay down at Andrews and work. He loves to work. He told me yesterday, he's like, can you arrange it with Nana so that I could come down and like do some real work?
I asked him, I was like, do you want to work at Garden Answer or do you want to work at Andrews? He's like, oh, I want to work at Andrews.
Nice.
It wasn't even a question. It's like, I'm not working for you guys.
Yeah, well, that's how I was when I grew up.
Yeah.
Like, I will try everything else before I end up down here.
Yeah.
And look what happened. Anyway, so my mom ended up coming up with Samantha and I to drop off the bouquets, and my mom was the one who got the message saying like, hey, I heard your name and Laura's name, and my mom was there, and that was so sweet. Okay, I think that was it for that video. Next one was fun antiquing / garden center shopping with my mom and sister. We were able to get out of town, all 3 of us, which is very, very rare. My mom and I have a little bit of an easier time getting out because we can kind of like call it a little bit more, but since it was such a rainy, soggy day, Monica was like, I'm out too. I'm coming with you guys, and it ended up being just perfect. Now, there's usually not a lot of questions on shopping videos, but you guys seem to really love them, and it's a fun day out doing something different. The Buzzy Bumblebee said, when the frames are beat up like that, like the long skinny one or that silver one you saw, will you repaint those? Sometimes we'll just touch them up with a little bit of stain, but sometimes not. Sandy said, loved this video. How's your mom's house coming along? Any plans for a sneak peek anytime soon? So I did notice that was a very, very common question on this whenever I talk about my mom or I'm at my mom's house or whatever. There's questions about the remodel. It's very close, this remodel. Oh.
I think she's waiting for a couple, like the refrigerator hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
And then just today they put in the console for the TV, and she was, right? I think your dad was mentioning something about that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
And then I think they're starting yesterday. I think they started the pergola.
Oh, she probably wants to wait till that's
She wanted to
done,
wait till she had things kind of put together and it was actually finished. instead of kind of like doing another midway update. And then at that point, once the pergola is up, that's what we're waiting for to be done. We're going to start really mapping out the landscape up there. We've already gone through, I walked through the nursery with my mom, and we picked a couple of trees that are going to be beautiful. But you never know, like a pergola changes a lot. It gives so much vertical interest that it might make us move the tree one way or the other, so that like maybe you see a specific beam, or maybe you hide one, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're waiting for that to start the landscape. But we will be doing it as soon as they finish. But it's just been like...
Taking a long time?
Yeah. Okay, Gardener Phil said, "What the heck is that?" at 11:36. The funny part is I pointed my camera at this like weird armadillo looking purse, but I didn't even see it.
Oh, really?
I mean,
you were looking at something
I was
else.
like scanning, like kind of looking, and it did not register until I was watching the video back. I was like, what is that? I don't really know. I kind of wish now that I would have noticed it when we were there so I could have read the tag. But it is like kind of heinous. Cute Nurse said, "Was there an April garden tour?" We have not done one yet. I've been kind of thinking about it. We should probably do one, maybe toward the end of the month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like some tulips up. There's some things that look nice. I don't know. It doesn't...
Yeah, but sometimes it's nice to see that like right now it's still looking kind of bare. Things are leafing out,
Sure.
But it is what it is at the moment. That statement bothers a lot of people.
It is what it is?
Yeah.
Well, it is what it is.
I see like occasionally on Facebook, like people will ask, what is a phrase you hate hearing?
Uh-huh.
And that's a big one.
Huh.
What are other ones?
All's you got to do.
Oh, yeah.
In this area, I feel like that's more common.
I seen it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I saw. Also, when people say the lawn needs mowed, or the lawn needs
to be mowed,
needs
or
to
needs
be mowed,
mowing.
or needs mowing is correct.
User said, "How do you treat the angel wings plant? I tried it in several places and it didn't thrive." They don't, in my experience, want a ton of water. And I put mine somewhere that usually doesn't get like full hot afternoon sun, but it gets enough sun, if that makes sense. So good block of morning sun is really nice. They seem to do well in that. Suzanne said, "I had a question about the wheat that you grew last year. Did you spray your wheat with a fungicide at the flowering stage to protect against fusarium head blight? If you did, what product did you use and where did you purchase?" I did not spray my wheat with anything at any point. So, sorry, I do not have any information on that. And the last video from this week was planting perennials around the pond and house plus satisfying fresh mulch. So we opened that video with Paul and Bethany mulching the whole pond area, which took place over the course of a few days, I think. They do just such a beautiful job, and I love that they're willing to put a camera out. And Paul like really thinks about getting different angles.
Yeah, he was getting some good shots.
Yeah, he gets some really good satisfying shots. So that's really fun, and I thought you guys might like to see that because it just dramatically changes everything. Whenever the compost or mulch goes down, it just all the plants look healthier, everything looks good. We planted some Baptisia and some new campanulas around the pond, and then we planted those giant Virginias, the peppermint patty ones, around the corner of the back of our house, and they look really good right there. Rosie said, "I love your videos. I learn something new every time and just so inspirational. Thank you for that. Question, how far apart did you space your boxwoods to create that beautiful hedge?" So the one I planted behind, we did not plant. That one was there. It looks like they were planted about 2 feet apart, possibly, which is about how far we go, usually.
Yeah.
Right around there, 18 inches to 2 feet.
You can plant them fairly close, can't you?
Mary said, "Looks great and ready to explode with color. Did you add more black paint to the house? I love it." A little bit of more black paint. So Erin wanted all the downspouts, the gutter downspouts, to be painted black instead of white like they were.
Yeah. That's the way it looks on like all the nice houses I look at on Instagram.
Which I don't look at houses ever like you do. You have a lot of like architecture and homes and interiors and stuff, and I never look at that.
It's so funny. My Instagram is, I mean, I don't get on Instagram every day, but when I do, it's like my For You is just, it's totally curated for like, oh, Erin only likes white homes. I think I've said that before, but they all have black downspouts. Also, the painter like just threw it out there and was like, "What do you think about painting all the columns black?" And I think it could have looked cool.
I heard him out, but in my mind, I'm like instant no on that.
I don't know. He shared a photo of his home with a black porch and black columns.
His is shaped a little bit different, though.
It is shaped different.
His is a farmhouse, and when you add the black columns, it gives it more of a modern farmhouse look.
Yeah.
which I want to go away from farmhouse and away from modern, and I want it to look more colonial.
Yeah.
I think
It's
you do
true.
too.
It would have looked probably a lot more modern.
Yeah. It looked good on his house.
Yeah, I think it could have looked good on ours too, depending on what style. Again, I mean, it's so subjective.
Yeah.
All of it is subjective.
Right.
What people like. So there's probably a lot of people that are like, "Oh, White House is so boring," blah, you know. And I get that.
Yeah.
Because I can, it could be
But I do like the downspouts being painted black.
good.
It does look kind of sharp. I like it. Becky said, I echo the praise and appreciation of Paul and Bethany's hard work. Beautiful. Question, I was looking for but didn't see the succulents you planted among the rocks last fall. I showed those.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it's in there. Watch it back. Right? It's like toward the beginning of the little tour through the area.
Yeah, it was like the first thing you showed.
Yeah. Barbara said, did Aaron get his auger yet?
Yes.
Are we going to use it today? Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I've got a lot of other things to do, but I could totally help you with that if.
I will possibly need the 24-inch one. I could do it.
Where at?
I don't know. That's the problem.
The thing about the auger is that you can't use it everywhere because you can't use it near power lines. I know where everything is on our property.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I called Digline because we acquired more property. I called Digline just a few days ago, and all the utilities came out and marked everything because there was a couple areas where I wasn't sure. When you've lived on a property for 10 years, well, 8 years.
And we've added a lot of the infrastructure to it ourselves.
Yeah, we've added a lot of
yeah.
infrastructure. Like, I kind of know where all the utilities are. I've seen that comment of like, did you call Digline? And we do call Digline
when needed.
if it's an area that we're not sure about, but we're pretty sure about just about everything.
And there is a short stint of the new fence line that we're going to have to hand dig everything.
Yeah.
Because there is a power line going right through it. Good to know.
But there's a lot that we can use the auger for.
Yeah, a lot.
A ton.
Yeah, like the whole perimeter of the Dirtlands.
Yeah.
The whole thing, we can use it. Lisa said, does drip need to be reassessed with each new planting season? Yes.
Paul and I are probably going to go through that today and just
Turn on every zone.
One thing I saw a video about how with more established trees, or I guess trees that are like maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, how important it is to take the drip line away from them because you don't want roots growing toward water, toward the trunk.
You want to encourage it.
You want to really encourage it to go out.
So you make your rings bigger?
Yeah, this year we need to make sure that they're several feet out. Like even just beyond, because when you water with the drip, it's going to sub out a little bit toward the tree and then a little bit away from the tree as well. But you definitely want your roots reaching out for water as opposed to heading inward.
Right.
But when you first plant the tree, you really need that drip like right around the root ball.
Right.
Because if you put it too far out, the roots won't have a chance to reach for it. So anyway, I'm going to do that this year.
User said, oh my goodness, that pink blooming tree, what is that? Paul and Bethany are amazing workers and the pond looks lovely. That is a thundercloud plum. We planted that when the corner garden, the triangle shaped garden was still there. And so it was fun that we were able to, that's the only thing that was incorporated into the pond area that used to be there.
Right.
And it just worked out perfectly and it looks beautiful. Tina said, what compost do you use to top dress your beds? I have dry sandy soil on top and clay soil underneath, and it says to add compost, but I'm not sure if I should get composted cow manure, composted sheep manure, or just regular compost. I think I'm also done with adding wood mulch to my garden beds. It takes too long to break down and does nothing for my soil. That's kind of where we were at.
Yeah.
We just thought, there's so much area that needs to be conditioned here, and it is more expensive to get compost, but over the course of time, I think it's going to pay off. Using compost?
It's wood. What we're getting is wood mulch, just way farther in the composting process.
Right. It's just a very, very fine, broken down.
Instead of the chips that you see, I don't know if they break them up into smaller chips and then, allow them to compost for longer, but that's what it is. So.
Last question, Tinker Grumpy Buns says, everything looks gorgeous. I noticed you don't have any Japanese maple. Is it just a New England thing?
False.
False. I have. Okay, let me count. Hold on. I have 9 Japanese maples. I have 9 Japanese maples. Where have you been, Tinker Grumpy Buns? A lot of mine are in containers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 currently in the ground and 1 sitting in a pot that I picked up yesterday. That will be going in the ground here soon. Yeah, the rest are in containers, but Japanese maples don't tend to love our dry, hot wind, nor do they like our high pH soil. So putting them in Containers is usually a pretty successful way of keeping them. It depends on the area too. My grandparents have the most gorgeous, I think it's a red dragon, Japanese maple out in front of their house. And it is spectacular. It's on the north side of their house, but it's out far enough to where it gets a little bit of sun, but it's protected a little bit right there. And it's just huge and gorgeous. And I noticed that, and like if you get it placed just right.
Yeah.
And the one in the video where I planted the Virginia, that one right in that Virginia bed is a Katsura. And then right across we've got an Emperor, and then I've got, oh geez, I can't remember the names of all of them. No, I've got 10 because I have the Metamorphosis or whatever one, the Proven Winners one, in a container down the way.
You will probably plant a lot more Japanese maples in like
10 years.
5-10 years.
Yeah, when we have more shade.
Yeah.
The tags say full sun, and they just cannot handle our full sun, so you do have to be very strategic. And they never get to their full size here. They're more of an ornamental shrub almost.
Yeah.
Unless you have them placed in the exact right spot and they're getting...
If you can place them on the east side of a large tree,
Yeah.
you'll be okay,
Yeah.
probably.
Mm-hmm. And somewhere where maybe they won't get wind as well.
Right.
Yeah. All right. That is it for our recap questions for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching the videos and for commenting and all of that business. I hope you are having a great spring so far out in your gardens, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.